Good morning. My name is Mary, and I'm going to be speaking to the children this morning, but I invite you all to listen in. So here we are. Yeah, hopefully you can all see that snowman a little bit. If you haven't been tracking along with us, we have been looking at different personalities of people in the Bible and seeing what we can learn from them. If they're something like us, then it teaches us a little more about ourselves. And then also looking for maybe something we can learn from them as a bit of a warning. Hi, Joshua. Hi. So our snowman today is, he goes by a couple of names. So first we hear of him, he's Simon. And then Jesus gives him, he kind of tacks on another name to him later on. And he calls him Peter. And then sometimes when you read about him, this is all in the New Testament, he's Simon Peter. So it's Peter, Simon, Simon Peter. I'm trying to put these all up there. There we go. Just a quick note about the name Peter, which I like, because, you know, there are a few name changes in the Bible, aren't there? We've talked about Abram to Abraham and Sarai to Sarah, Saul to Paul, Jacob to Israel. And then Jesus says to Peter, I'm going to call you Peter because on this rock I will build my church. And what's neat about that is one of the personality traits of Peter is that he seeks security. He likes safe. And so I think it's kind of cool that Jesus gives him a name that is a word that does kind of give us security, right? If a rock is a good foundation, it doesn't move, it's strong. So that's just a little note about his name change. The other thing about Peter that we'll see in a couple of the stories we look at is that he's trusting and that he is loyal. So think about whether that's you. Do you find that you're a loyal person? If you are a loyal kid, then maybe you're somebody who has a good friend and you're always good to that friend. You don't flip around and have different friends all the time. Then you are probably loyal because you have that one good friend and you're always there for him or her. Seeking security is like you like things to be safe. So the thing that challenged Peter was whenever he would feel fear. That's where he would get himself into a little bit of trouble, was with fear. So there's, again, so many stories about Peter in the New Testament. So I had a hard time just picking a couple that we wouldn't take up all the time, and then Pastor Ian wouldn't have any time to talk. But the first one is when he first gets called to be a disciple. So a disciple member was one of those 12 guys that Jesus called to walk with him really closely, and he would teach them some more things than he taught everybody else, and he would explain things to them a little bit better. Well, Peter was a fisherman, and he was cleaning his nets at the shore, and Jesus was walking and teaching people, and this is how I kind of picture it. I kind of picture Jesus walking, and he's talking and teaching, and more people are coming and coming and coming. The crowd's getting bigger, and Jesus ran out of places to go. He just ran out of some place to stand. So he got into Peter's boat because it was on the shore, and he pushed out, and he was teaching the people from the boat. And then when he was done, he said to Peter, go out and throw your nets over the side of the boat. Well, Peter wasn't a hobby fisherman. It wasn't something he did for fun. It was his job. He was a professional fisherman. And he said to Jesus, we have been out all night and we didn't catch anything. Isn't that interesting? Like, it wasn't like we had kind of a bad night. We didn't catch any fish. And then he says, because you say so, I will do it. So Peter shows he's trusting and he's loyal to Jesus. He's been listening to him teach, and he says, because you say so, I will do it. How do you think that worked out for Peter? He's out there in the boat and he throws the net over, and it was so full of fish. The net almost broke, and he called to his friends who had the other boat that was on the shore. He said, come out and help. And they came out, and they could barely get all those fish in the two boats. And the boats just were almost sinking. There were so many fish. Isn't that crazy? And then when they got back to shore, all four of them left everything and followed Jesus. They became very loyal to Jesus. And the second story I have about Peter is also involving boats and water, a boat and water. So once again, Jesus is teaching the people, and he gets to the end of that, and he says, okay, you guys get in the boat and go on the lake. And Jesus goes up the mountain so he can be alone and pray to God the Father. And the disciples are out in the boat, and it says it was like toward morning. So they'd been floating around out there or whatever, through the night. And there was a bit of a storm coming, so the wind was whipping up, and they were probably watching that pretty closely. Well, Jesus decides to join them, and he doesn't get in a boat to join them. He just walks on the water. He just starts walking toward them. Now, you can figure if they were up all night and kind of worrying about this wind, they were already probably a little bit worried about things, and then they say, it's a ghost, which you would think, right? Because they'd never seen anyone walk right on the water before. And Jesus says, don't be afraid, it's me. And then Peter says, if it's you, Lord, let me come to you on the water. And it's Peter that steps out of the boat right into the water. And he starts walking to Jesus. And that works. It works at first, right? Because he's trusting. And then Peter probably got a bit of wind blowing across his face, and maybe he saw a few bigger waves. And Peter got afraid. So he gave in a little bit to his fear. And he started to sink. And he just cries, Lord, help me, save me. And Jesus put out his hand, it says. He took his hand, and the two of them got into the boat together. And what I love about that story is, whether you think you're kind of like Peter or not, this is something that happens to all of us, right? If we have put our trust in Jesus, and most of the time we feel really safe about that, then when things happen that make us really uncomfortable or make us afraid, we can take our eyes off of all the things that we know about Jesus, and we can kind of give into the fear, right? So this story that Peter's story that's told in the New Testament can teach us a lot about how to react whenever we have some fear. And I was thinking that as kids, one way to help fight that fear and keep trusting and keep your faith in Jesus is to remember the promises that Jesus gave us. Remember? So some of the promises are that Jesus will always be with us. He says, I'll always be with you. I'll never leave you. I will give you my peace, right? So when things are stirring up in your tummy, you can just say, Jesus, help me, just the way Peter did. And Jesus can somehow give us some peace about things. He says, I'll always love you, always love you. So if you're feeling funny and not loved, maybe, you can just say, Jesus, help me. And he can remind you. He loves you. He'll always love you. And he always hears our prayers, right? He's never like off duty or somewhere we can't find him. We can just pray anywhere, and we can deal with some of that fear and come back to a place where we're trusting him. Okay? So that's our lesson from Peter today. And I know, again, you're going to want to come upstairs because we're going to do some fun stuff upstairs. So all the kids are welcome to come up. Thank you.